Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was Demon of the Leaf? Part 1. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, so without wasting any time let's get into the video. Naruto Uzumaki was laying on his bed tossing and turning trying to sleep, but was not able to. Naruto groaned, turning his body to face the direction of his door. Naruto opened his eyes to look at his open closet at a scroll, and after a few seconds of staring at it, Naruto groaned again sitting up, then he stood up walking over to a pile of clothes and lifted up a pair of black pants and then an orange tank top. After sniffing both, Naruto put on the clothes and grabbed the scroll, and after getting ready he left. Naruto started making his way through Konoha just looking at the scroll thinking. Naruto just walked without paying attention when he felt a hand on his shoulder, so he turned around and to his surprise saw his sensei. Naruto saw Kakashi close his book and heard you should be in bed. Naruto just sighed then said I can't sleep. Naruto then looked at the scroll to hear what is it. Naruto looked up and said Kakashi-sensei, do you know how to use a sword? Naruto saw Kakashi nod, then heard it's been a minute, but yay. Why do you ask? Naruto sighed looking back at the scroll, then said if I show you you promise not to tell anyone. Naruto saw Kakashi look at him, then hear Naruto just nodded and then said never mind. Naruto turned and continued to walk, making his way to a training ground. Naruto just stood in the training ground looking at the scroll to then start to glare and thought no, surprise Kakashi-sensei won't teach me, he never did. Hell, he doesn't even deserve the title sensei from me. Naruto crouched, opening the scroll to see a storage seal, so he put his hand on it, pumping chakra into the seal. Naruto saw a poof of smoke, then he smirked seeing what was once Obito's weapon, the executioner blade. Naruto just smiled, slipping the scroll out from under the blade and setting it to the side, then he grabbed the handle with both hands and started to lift it. Naruto struggled as he lifted it, the blade being heavy. Naruto slowly raised the blade and after getting it facing up, he put some last effort in letting it land on his shoulder, which made him fall onto his back. Naruto groaned, annoyed when someone said quietly Naruto. Naruto looked up a little and around to see an outline of a person which put him on guard, so he said, who are you? Naruto saw the person walk up into the moonlight to see Hinata, who was looking down, her face red to his confusion. Naruto just shrugged it off and said what are you doing here? Naruto saw Hinata look up then back down and heard her say quietly I was training and fell asleep taking a break. I'm just heading home. I know Hinata stutters in canon, but when I write it I don't know if I do too much or not enough, so I make Hinata just quiet. Naruto nodded and said can I walk you home? Naruto saw Hinata slightly nod so he said I just need to get this blade out of the ground and put it back in the scroll. Naruto saw Hinata nod, then heard do you need help? Naruto just nodded and said this sword is heavy. Naruto saw Hinata nod, then walk up and heard how are we going to do this? Naruto shrugged and said the handle is huge, maybe you grab the top and I grab the bottom. Naruto saw Hinata nod and walk up grab where she was instructed, so he did the same then said on 3, 1, 2, 3. Naruto felt himself pull and it came out of the ground, but he also fell backwards. Naruto groaned as he heard the sword hit the ground when he heard it. Naruto looked forward to seeing Hinata laying on top of him, his face red. Naruto's face then went red and just stared into her eyes, seeing a hint of lavender, then he thought her eyes, they are pretty. Naruto felt Hinata move off which brought him back to reality, then heard her say quietly I'm sorry. Naruto shook his head just staring at Hinata and said it's okay, it was an accident. Naruto saw Hinata just nod, so he stood up and walked over to Hinata and held his hand out. Naruto saw Hinata take it so he pulled her up, then heard thank you. Naruto nodded, then walked over to the sword to hear why were you out here? Naruto stopped the set opening storage scroll I want to learn to use this and I asked my sensei, but he wouldn't keep it a secret. Naruto saw Hinata nod, then heard maybe I could help. I might not know anything about using a sword, but I might be able to help. Naruto just looked at Hinata, then just said why. Naruto saw Hinata look down, then up and heard I have the next couple days off to do with me and my team have clan business, but I also do some early training in the morning and could use a partner during those times. Naruto nodded, then he saw Hinata look down again, so he smiled and said come on. Naruto saw Hinata nod, then walk up so he turned and started walking them both in silence. As they got into the village Naruto heard Hinata say quietly that sword is heavy, how are you going to lift it? Naruto looked at Hinata then forward and said I have an idea. Naruto saw Hinata nod, so he looked forward to hearing what is the idea. Naruto looked at Hinata then forward scratching the back of his head and said, what I want to do is nothing cool, and what I am going to do is basically cheating. Naruto just looked down, moving his hand down to hear Hinata say quietly, can I still hear it? Naruto looked up at Hinata to barely hear please. Naruto just nodded and said gravity seals, they can make anything heavier or lighter. I will place one on the sword so it's liftable. Naruto just continued to look down to hear that's not cheating. Naruto stopped looking up to see Hinata look at him and heard Naruto Fuinjutsu is not cheating. They do stuff no ninjutsu can and are very powerful. The fourth Hokage was a seal master and people say was the most powerful Hokage after the first Hokage. Naruto just looked at Hinata in shock to hear, do you like Fuinjutsu? Naruto nodded and said yay. Naruto saw Hinata smile, then heard, what made you think it's cheating? Naruto looked down and said, when I was in the academy I brought a Fuinjutsu book to read in class and my teacher took it and told me that someone like me could never learn it and it's cheating. This isn't Iruka, someone else. Naruto looked up, feeling his hand being grabbed to hear they lied. Naruto just gave a small smile, then looked at his hand which was held by Hinata's hand. Naruto looked up and said, you are holding my hand. Naruto felt Hinata's hand move as her face went red, then heard sorry. Naruto shook his head and said with a small blush and smile, I liked it. Naruto held out his hand and after feeling Hinata take it he smiled, still having a small blush, and they continued walking. Naruto and Hinata walked a few more minutes in silence when he barely heard Naruto. Naruto looked down as they walked to hear, you should still use the blade without the gravity seal. Naruto just looked down, said, drawing his hand back to feel Hinata grab it, and heard, no, I don't mean it's a bad thing to use the seal. Naruto looked up confused to hear, what if the seal was destroyed? You then carry a blade which slows you down and you can't use it, which puts you at risk. Naruto just smiled and said, scratching the back of his head, that makes sense. Naruto then stopped seeing the Hyuga compound in the distance, so he stopped and stopped speaking to hear, you don't want to be glared at. Naruto looked down at Hinata and just nodded and looked down saying, you kind of made my day and I don't want to take any glares or yelling. Naruto felt Hinata squeeze his hands, so he looked up to hear, it's okay. Naruto nodded, then he watched Hinata walk off, but he continued watching, waiting for her to go into her compound. Next day early morning, Hiruzen was looking at a request form with an annoyed look when he heard his door open, so he looked up to see Iruka walking in with a frown. Hiruzen sighed, putting the paper down to hear, Hokage-sama, I need to know what the hell Kakashi is teaching Naruto. Hiruzen just nodded and said why. Hiruzen saw Iruka make his hand into a fist, then heard, last night he came to me in the middle of the night. When I opened the door I found him crying and he broke down in front of me. Hiruzen saw Iruka let out a breath of air, then heard, I never saw him like that ever. He told me Hinata agreed to help him in training and he refused to tell me what Kakashi teaches him, but if Naruto broke down for someone his age helping him then Kakashi isn't helping. Hiruzen sighed to hear, I mean he doesn't know anything new. Hiruzen nodded, then said, truth, tree walking. Hiruzen saw Iruka shocked and then heard, I'm going to kill that bastard. Hiruzen sighed then said, truthfully, I want to kill him, but not for teaching him that and for making Naruto not to ask. Hiruzen saw Iruka confused, so he said, when they became a team Naruto asked to learn very powerful jutsu and he was denied, which I would have done. Naruto asked a few more times then when he went to ask Kakashi to teach him to learn a C-rank jutsu, but he was denied before he could speak. He has taught himself Fuinjutsu and doesn't go to Kakashi as he doesn't want to be denied. He even asked me for help and I could but told him to go to you. He didn't want to show that he was weak to you. Hiruzen saw Iruka's eyes widened, then heard what he told me. Hiruzen just nodded and said, I want to talk to Kakashi, but I'm not. Hiruzen saw Iruka confused and angry, so he said Naruto needs to be taught, but he needs to help himself find a teacher. If he asks to be transferred to another team I'll do it. I'll do anything he asks to get out of Kakashi's team, and I know he has one terrible life, but I want him to come and ask for another option. Hiruzen saw Iruka nod, then heard okay, I don't agree, but okay. Hiruzen smiled then said good. Hiruzen saw Iruka nod, then heard, I also am here to talk to you about something. Naruto was standing on a training field with Hinata in his orange jumpsuit. Naruto just smiled as he heard Hinata finish her skills when he heard, it's okay if you think I'm weak. Naruto widened then said, Hinata, you're not weak in any way. You just have a big heart, Hinata. Naruto saw Hinata look down, so he said, Hinata, if you're weak, that's what makes me. You are stronger than me. Naruto saw Hinata look up then heard, but you're not weak. Naruto shrugged then said, then you aren't either. Naruto saw Hinata just nod with a small smile, so he smiled, grabbing a scroll from his kunai pouch, and said, well, we should get to work. Naruto crouched, setting the scroll down. Naruto opened the scroll to show 2 storage seals. Naruto unsealed them both with the executioner blade appear and a big scroll as well. If you want a better reference, think about half the size as the scroll Jiraiya carries on his back. Naruto moved the huge scroll and set it down, then opened it. After opening it to show a seal, Naruto looked up to hear, what is this? Naruto smiled and then said, this seal is a modified resistance seal. Naruto saw Hinata confused, so he said, a resistant seal when applied to an item helps protect them from the weather and from any form of an attack unless it's powerful. It's a basic seal, but I modified it to use on seals. Like you said, I should still learn to use the blade without the gravity seal, so if the seal is destroyed, but I wouldn't like that to happen. Naruto saw Hinata nod, so he reached into his pouch pulling out a brush and ink and walked over to the sword. Naruto crouched about to open the bottle, then made the seal. After 15 minutes Naruto sighed happily at the seal, so he closed the ink bottle and did a few hand signs, then put his hand over the seal and said sealing art seal activation. Naruto applied chakra to the seal and after a few seconds moved his hand to hear Naruto. Naruto looked at Hinata, then looked where she was looking at the bottom of the blade to see a seal dissipating, so he said what? Naruto moved over and said what was that? Naruto put his hand over the seal and put in chakra and after a few seconds removed his hand seeing the seal appear. Naruto just looked at it to hear what is it. Naruto looked up and said what I see is just a storage seal with the invisible modifier seal. Naruto saw Hinata confused, so he said invisible modifier seals are a type of seals applied to another seal to make it turn invisible until chakra is applied making it visible. It doesn't affect the seal. Naruto saw Hinata nod, then heard like you modified the resistor seal. Naruto nodded and just put his hand over the seal and applied more chakra. Naruto saw a poof of smoke and a small scroll appeared so he took it and looked at the title to hear Hidden Mist Jutsu. Naruto just smiled and said it's a scroll of Zabuza's jutsu. Naruto looked up, seeing Hinata confused and shocked, then I heard your mission turned into an air rank, but you met Zabuza Mamachi. Naruto nodded and said yay, after seeing someone he cared for die, he became an ally and fought the people that he was hired by. His arms were broken, so he used a kunai in his mouth and killed about half of an army of bandits, but he died from his wounds, but gave me his blade. Naruto saw Hinata nod, so he looked at the blade and said Zabuza was a good person no matter what anyone says, and I want to honor him. Naruto looked back up at Hinata just seeing her smile, then heard well let's get to work. Naruto nodded standing up, then he put his hand to his chest holding up only the pointer and middle finger. After a few seconds he walked over and lifted up the blade, it being as light as a feather, then said I think I should figure out how to use the blade first and build up my strength, then start to use it without the seal. Naruto saw Hinata nod, so he smiled at himself standing up, then said walking over to his scroll thank you Hinata. Naruto put the blade down looking to see her smile and heard I'll do anything for a friend. Naruto's eyes widened and then said friends. Naruto saw Hinata nod, so he turned as he felt a few tears fall down his cheek, but he whipped them away sniffling when he heard you okay. Naruto nodded and said yay, just something in my eye. After applying the seal he and Hinata got to work, mainly Hinata helping him. 1 week later, Naruto was standing on a training field, the sun coming over the mountain. Naruto was wearing his jumpsuit and he was practicing using the blade while he had a clone sparring with Hinata. Naruto let out a breath of frustration seeing his hand still shaking and after redoing what he was trying not improving, he twirled yelling as he threw the blade, but also his jacket tearing. Naruto let out another breath to hear you okay. Naruto turned around at Hinata who was walking up, but he shook his head and said no. Naruto then looked at the blade and said my form is terrible and my hands are shaking. Naruto looked forward to seeing Hinata smile and hurt it's only been a week. Naruto just nodded then he looked down at a scroll on how to use a sword, but it was mainly for basic katanas not his blade which wasn't helping. Naruto just sighed looking up to hear Hinata say your jacket it's ripped. Naruto looked at it, then said of course it is. Naruto took off his jacket showing a white t-shirt to hear Hinata say, can I see the jacket I might be able to repair it. Naruto saw Hinata look at it, then up and heard Naruto this isn't ninja clothes. Naruto just nodded knowing that already when he heard I can repair it though. Naruto looked up at Hinata to hear an alarm go off. Naruto looked behind him at the alarm clock they use so they don't be late to team meetings, so he looked forward and said I got another one just throw it away. Naruto turned around to hear Hinata say Naruto just stopped and snapped, just mind your own business. Naruto felt his gut twist when he heard okay. Naruto looked up to see Hinata turn and walk and he just watched and after seeing her gone he faced forward and thought shit, I didn't mean to snap. Why didn't I say sorry? 12 hours later, Hinata was walking through Konoha at about 6 in the afternoon. Hinata sighed thinking of this morning and how Naruto snapped at her. Hinata shook his head when he heard Hinata. Hinata turned around and to her surprise saw her old academy sensei Iruka. Hinata smiled to hear have you seen Naruto, we were meant to meet up at Ichiraku, but he didn't show up. Hinata just shook her head and said no, not since Hinata stopped talking when he heard this morning. Hinata looked up in shock to hear he tells me everything Hinata. Hinata just nodded and then said Iruka-sensei, can I ask you something? Hinata saw Iruka nod so she said Naruto snapped at me today. Hinata saw Iruka just looking at her with confusion, so she said, his jacket ripped and I offered to fix it, but also figured out it isn't even ninja gear. I pressed him and he just snapped. Hinata saw Iruka nod, then heard Hinata I know you know that the village treats him like shit. He's been kicked from every ninja clothes store and had to buy that from a clothes store that overcharged him a lot. His weapons are terrible and I can't even do anything they won't let me. Hinata nodded, then after a minute of silence said, Naruto needs real gear. Hinata saw Iruka nod so she said I know someone who might be able to help. Hinata saw Iruka nod, then heard come on. Next day early morning, Naruto was walking onto the training ground he and Hinata trained when he saw Hinata standing there and to his surprise also Iruka. Naruto walked up and said Iruka, what are you doing here? Naruto saw Iruka smile and heard Hinata ask me. Naruto nodded remembering yesterday, so he looked at Hinata and said with a smile sorry for snapping at you yesterday, I was just frustrated with how my progress with the sword was. Naruto saw Hinata smile and heard it's okay. Naruto nodded, then said well Hinata, can we get to work? Naruto saw Hinata shake her head and heard we aren't training today. Naruto looked at Hinata in confusion to hear today we are going shopping for ninja gear. Naruto just gave a smile and said Hinata my gear is fine. Naruto saw Hinata just shake her head when he heard Iruka say I'll leave you two alone. Naruto watched Iruka walk off and after seeing him disappear he looked at Hinata and said I don't need new gear and if I did I don't have the money. Naruto then walked past Hinata but stopped only getting a few feet and hearing Naruto your jacket is even ninja gear and your tools chip and are terrible. Naruto just looked down to hear please let me help you. Naruto just shook his head to hear why. Naruto didn't answer or move to hear Hinata say loudly why. Naruto turned around angry but said Hinata just dropped it. Naruto saw Hinata shake her head, then saw her walk up. Naruto saw her stop in front of him then pointed him and then heard no, you're my friend I want to help. So fucking tell me why. Naruto just let out a breath looking down and said Hinata, Naruto just stopped talking and after a couple of seconds of silence heard I ran into Iruka yesterday and I talked to him. He told me that you tell him everything and keep some secrets including the executioner blade. Naruto looked up to see Hinata set a hand on his chest over his heart and heard I'm asking you to trust me please. Naruto just nodded and then said okay, but I need you to do me a favor. Naruto saw Hinata nodding so he said I want to know why you are doing this. Naruto saw Hinata look up then heard because I'll be a terrible friend. Naruto just smiled as he grabbed Hinata's hand that was on his chest, then he said, how did I get so lucky? Naruto and Hinata just stared at each other after about 10 seconds when they heard a loud fake cough. Naruto and Hinata instantly separated, both having blushes on their faces to then hear Iruka say come on. Naruto nodded, then followed Hinata and Iruka through the village, avoiding the glares. 45 minutes later, Naruto was standing in front of a big building looking up at the sign reading Shinobi Guard. Naruto just looked at Hinata to hear they sell shinobi clothes and weapons. The owner's daughter is my cousin's teammate. Naruto nodded and said, I don't have any money. Naruto felt a hand on his shoulder, so he looked up at Iruka to hear I'm paying for it. Naruto just shook his head and said I need a lot, Iruka and no offense, but you don't exactly have a lot of money. Naruto saw Iruka smile, then heard you're right Naruto, but the Hokage has given me some money for you to use. Naruto nodded with a small smile, then he walked in with his friends. Naruto stopped as he heard the door close and looked around to see clothes hanging on racks with a counter at the back. Naruto just started looking through the racks of clothes slowly, not dropping his guard to just hear only grab one outfit, I have more clothes in the back to remake your outfit. Naruto just looked at the man at the counter and nodded then started looking around. After 30 minutes Naruto chose what he liked and walked to the changing rooms. 10 minutes later, Naruto was standing outside the changing room in front of Hinata and Iruka. Naruto was wearing a black long-sleeve shirt under a no-sleeve trench coat with a zipper from the waist up zipped up and a hood that wasn't on. Naruto also had on black fingerless gloves, black pants with his kunai pouch on his left thigh, and he also wore black ninja sandals. Naruto had been standing there for a couple of minutes, nervous, his friends just staring at him, and after a few more seconds he couldn't take it and said what do you think? Naruto saw them look at his face, then heard Hinata say I like it, it's just that I thought you would wear some orange. Naruto smiled and said orange is my favorite color, but I like the look of this. Naruto saw them nod, so he smiled when he looked up seeing the man from the counter look at him, then heard I also think it looks good. I'll get you 3 trench coats with 10 pairs of everything else, including short sleeve shirts for missions that take place in hot areas. Naruto nodded and then said thank you. Naruto saw the man nod and then heard I'm hoping you are here for weapons. Naruto didn't react but said do you just sell sheaths or holsters? Naruto saw the man turn and walk, so he followed to hear yay I also do custom orders. Naruto nodded with a small smile as he saw the man go behind the counter so he said I have a custom order, but I would like no one to know about it. Naruto just saw the man nod, then reached down and grab a box, then heard I just need the measurements. Naruto nodded, grabbing the scroll, then setting it on the counter, and unsealed the executioner blade. Naruto saw the man looking at the blade and about to take measurements, so he said, is it possible for this holster to have something to hold a big scroll? Naruto saw the man nod, and then heard I have a friend outside the village that is really good at making this stuff. I'll send him the measurements, but you won't get it for a month. Naruto nodded as he then unsealed his big scroll. After waiting for about 20 minutes for the man to take the measurements and get Naruto's clothes, they left. 30 minutes later, Naruto sighed as he stopped in front of his apartment door, then he set the bags of clothes down in front of his floor, then he turned and hugged Iruka. After a few seconds he pulled back with a smile and said thank you. Naruto saw Iruka smile, then heard just promise me when you become Hokage, I just want everyone to know that I was the man that helped you a lot. Naruto just smiled and nodded and then said I'll do that. Naruto gave one of his goofy grins, and after a few seconds he heard Iruka say I gotta get home, but I'll see you tomorrow. We'll get it Shiraku. Naruto nodded, then he turned as Iruka left. Naruto looked at Hinata and said you can just set the clothes next to my door and I'll take them in. Naruto saw Hinata nod, then walk over and set them down, then he saw her turn and start to leave. Naruto just grabbed Hinata's wrist and said I'm truly sorry for snapping and thankful for you doing this. Naruto saw Hinata smile and nod so he did the same, and after seeing Hinata walk off he whipped away the tears on his cheeks. 1 hour later, Naruto sighed as he finished sealing away his outfits in the storage scroll he always carries around when he heard a knock on his door. Naruto walked over to his door putting the scroll in his pocket and opened it to just smile. Naruto stepped to the side and said Jiji come in. Naruto saw Hiruzen smile and come in, so he closed the door and said what are you doing here? Naruto saw Hiruzen turn around and hurt it seems like you've been improving in secret. Naruto chuckled and said, rubbing the back of his head sorry Jiji for not telling you. Naruto saw Hiruzen smile and heard you are allowed to have secrets and I have a gift. Naruto saw Hiruzen hold out a square piece of paper, then heard I want you to apply your chakra to this. Naruto nodded, taking the piece, then put it in between his hands. After applying chakra Naruto raised his hand up to see the paper split perfectly in half and one half crunch up. Naruto looked up to hear you have 2 chakra affinities which are wind and lighting. Naruto just nodded and then he heard come by to my office first thing tomorrow morning for some scrolls I have for you to use. Naruto nodded then after a few seconds in silence said can I borrow one of those papers for Hinata? Naruto saw Hiruzen nod and hand out a small stack and heard just in case. Naruto nodded while taking the stack then he said thank you Jiji. Naruto saw Hiruzen smile, then heard Naruto I have a question. Naruto nodded and then asked do you want to learn to use the Kyuubi's chakra? Naruto shook his head and said truth is no. Naruto saw Hiruzen confused, so he gestured to sit and did himself then began to explain. Flashback, Naruto was standing around in his mindscape just hours after learning what he held looking around when he heard a low growl. Naruto looked forward at the gate and said Kyuubi I would like to talk to you. Naruto saw torches light up in the cage to show a huge fox with 9 tails to then hear you're here to demand my power. Naruto's eyes widened and shook his head, then said no. Naruto saw Kyuubi, just looked at him and then heard Lair. Naruto just shrugged and said believe what you believe I just have one question. Naruto didn't hear or see the Kyuubi do anything so he said what would you like this place to look like? Naruto saw the Kyuubi lay his head on his arms and heard why do you care? Naruto just gave a smile and said simple, you were forced into me defending yourself. Naruto saw Kyuubi look at him with one eye, then heard I attacked Konoha. Naruto shook his head and said, you're a huge creature and you can't just attack Konoha without being seen, so you were forced somehow. Naruto didn't hear anything so he closed his eyes and after a few seconds opened them to find himself in a field so he smiled, then said well Kyuubi have a good day to you. Flashback end, I visit him every day and barely get anything out of him. Naruto saw Hiruzen nod, then heard of course you are trying to make friends with a demon. Naruto shrugged and said why not? Naruto saw Hiruzen nod standing, then heard good night Naruto. Naruto nodded, then after seeing Hiruzen leave, he went to bed himself. 1 month later, Naruto was standing in the Hokage's office with his team. Was leaning against the wall thinking I can't wait to feel how this holster is on me. Naruto. Naruto looked at Kakashi getting out of his thoughts to then hear did you listen? Naruto shook his head, then looked at the Hokage to hear like I said, Team 7 is going to the land of seeds to protect them from bandits and potential missing nin. Naruto nodded and said, Jiji, can I make a request? Naruto saw the Hokage nod so he said, can teammate join us? Naruto saw everyone look at him in confusion, then heard Sakura say Sasuke can take on whoever we encounter. Naruto just sighed, then said, our track record is really good with C-rank missions as our last one became A rank. I'm just saying backup would help if we are approached by another member of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. Naruto saw Hiruzen nod, then heard you're right I'll let teammate know. Naruto nodded, then he looked at Kakashi, hearing we leave in 3 hours. Naruto nodded, turned around then left in silence heading to his home. 3 hours later, Naruto was walking to the main Konoha gate wearing his outfit that he got at Shinobi Guard with an addition. This addition was a backstrap across his chest that went from the left shoulder to the right hip that held a leather holster to his back. This holster was a rectangle box across his whole back and enough room in it to just fit the executioner blade. On that holster for the blade there was a pocket that was also across his back and in it was his big scroll. Naruto just chuckled looking around, seeing people shocked when he heard Naruto. Naruto stopped and turned around to just smile seeing Hinata walk, so he waved thinking she's really pretty. Wait, she's just a friend, why am I thinking this? Naruto smiled and got bigger seeing Hinata stop in front of him to hear why are you wearing that? I thought you wanted to keep it a secret. Naruto nodded and then said yay, I did, but I decided it's time to stop and I would also like to just train with you during this mission. Naruto saw Hinata nod, then heard I see the holster fits well, but where is the executioner blade? Naruto smiled and said in the scroll for now. Naruto heard a chuckle from Hinata, then heard what are you going to cause? Naruto just shrugged then said come on, I don't need Kakashi-sensei yelling at me for being late. Naruto saw Hinata nod then walk off, but he just stared at her thinking Hinata is cute. Naruto shook his head, then quickly caught up to Hinata and continued walking. After a few more minutes of walking he saw his teammates in the distance to hear I heard you got my team to go on this mission with your team. Naruto looked at Hinata and nodded and then said I thought I needed to back up and I would like to hang out with a friend. Naruto looked at Hinata seeing her nervous, so he said hey what's wrong? Naruto saw Hinata look at him, then heard I'm just nervous, I've gone on a couple C-rank missions, and I've even fought bandits, but we might be dealing with missing nin, and it's Naruto just nodded and then said, it's okay to be nervous. Naruto saw Hinata nod, but still nervous so without thinking he grabbed her hand. Naruto looked at it then up at Hinata who was looking at him with her face red. After a few seconds of silence he said sorry Naruto stopped talking and felt Hinata squeeze his hand, then heard it's okay I don't mind. Naruto nodded, then he got closer and just smiled, a small blush forming. After a few more minutes Naruto looked forward to hearing Sakura say what the hell are you wearing? Naruto stopped moving his hand to his own, not wanting to then say what, I think it looks nice. Naruto saw Sakura just glare at him but didn't hear anything and after a few seconds in silence heard, it's better than that jumpsuit. Naruto looked at Kiba and said hey, I like the jumpsuit. Naruto saw Kiba just chuckle which he also did when he heard Kurenai say I got to admit Naruto your outfit is a defiant improvement. Naruto smiled then said thank you Kurenai-sensei. Naruto saw Kurenai smile, so he did to hear what is with the seal. Is that what you are going to use to protect us? Naruto looked at Sasuke, then said not exactly. Naruto then looked at his sensei, seeing him nod, then heard Naruto, are you missing something? It looks like it holds two things. Naruto's eyes widened, then he smirked and said yes I did. Naruto then crouched, opening a storage scroll. Naruto just smiled to hear it's properly something stupid like a scroll. Naruto just placed his hands over a scroll hearing Hinata say I don't think so. Naruto started putting chakra into the seal hearing Sakura say yay, and how do you know? Naruto smirked as a big poof of smoke appeared so he said simple, I've shown her. Naruto saw the smoke disappear and the executioner blade laying there. Naruto grabbed the blade, lifted it into his holster, and then went to his feet with the scroll. Naruto rolled up the scroll and put it in his kunai pouch, then looked at everyone to see them in shock. Naruto just smirked and said what? Naruto saw Kurenai look at him and then heard what Naruto, that Sab uses Mamachi's executioner blade. Naruto nodded and said I know. Naruto saw Kiba walk up and heard I heard you fought him, but you took his blade. Naruto shook his head and said no. Naruto saw Kiba confused and heard then how the hell do you have it then? Naruto just smirked when he heard well if Naruto fought Zabuza and he didn't take it, then logically Zabuza gave Naruto his blade. Naruto nodded when he heard what, Sasuke should have the blade so he can use it better. Naruto just looked at Sakura then said no. Naruto saw Sakura glare but heard Kakashi say that is why you asked that I use a sword. You wanted me to train you. Naruto nodded then said yay, I did. Naruto then just turned and said, don't we have a mission? Naruto then started walking when he heard you don't have a bag. Naruto just lifted up the scroll from earlier and said yes, I do. Naruto then put the scroll in his pouch and continued walking. Few hours later, Naruto was just walking in silence ahead of everyone else, not really paying attention when he heard Naruto. Naruto looked up to his left as his sensei to hear why didn't you tell me? Naruto just sighed, not answering to hear Naruto why. Naruto groaned then said because you wouldn't keep it a secret. Naruto looked at Kakashi to hear I'm not going to keep it a secret. Naruto just looked at his sensei and after a few seconds said you think I'm an idiot, you're Sasuke's sensei, because you have the Sharingan so you can teach him. Sasuke knows all of my skills and he can easily copy them. I just wanted to learn something that he doesn't know about. Naruto then looked at Kakashi hearing that's not an excuse. Naruto just sighed then after a few seconds said yet you teach him stuff that you don't teach me or Sakura. Naruto then walked forward angry, not in the mood to talk to Kakashi. After a few minutes of silence Naruto heard you okay? Naruto looked to his right, his anger going down seeing Hinata, so he said Hinata. Naruto just continued to smile and then heard, are you okay? Naruto just shook his head and said no, I'm just angry at Kakashi sensei. Naruto saw Hinata just nod, then heard you want to talk about it. Naruto just shook his head when he felt Hinata take his hand, then heard please, anger makes people blind in a fight or in anything else. Naruto just smiled then said I'm the luckiest person in the world for you as a friend. Kurenai was shocked to see Hinata hold Naruto's hand when he heard that's a surprise Kurenai-sensei. Kurenai looked at Kiba and nodded then just forward and thought Hinata's face would be as red as a tomato and she would have passed out, but she hasn't. Kurenai just sighed confused to hear Hinata is comfortable around Naruto and it's logical they've been hanging out. Kurenai nodded to hear Kakashi say Naruto does come to training away and with cuts and bruises. Kurenai nodded and said yay, so does Hinata and I know she does some training early in the morning before team training. Naruto must have been joining her. Kurenai looked at Kakashi, seeing him nodding and not reading his book, so he said you aren't reading your book. Kurenai saw Kakashi look at her and heard Kurenai, I'm a terrible teacher. Kurenai held back a chuckle and just nodded then said from your reports Kakashi. They've only learned tree walking while you trained Sasuke differently. Kurenai then looked forward and said I'm not surprised he decided to hide it from you. Kurenai didn't hear anything then heard he did come to me and ask me to keep it a secret I just didn't want to, but I should have. I told Sasuke to keep what I teach him a secret until he masters it. Kurenai just looked forward when he saw Sasuke walking up to Naruto, so she said, this is going to be interesting. Naruto just sighed with a happy smile when he told Hinata what frustrated him when he heard hey, Dumbus. Naruto sighed and just looked behind him and said what do you want? Naruto saw Sasuke just glare at him, then heard I want your blade. Naruto shook his head and said no, it's mine. Naruto saw Sasuke just smirking and heard I'm an Uchiha and I could use it better than a Dumbus like you. Naruto sighed and just ignored Sasuke looking forward when he heard I said give me it. Naruto stepped to the side before Sasuke could grab the handle, then he said I said no, and if you attempt to grab it again you'll lose your hand. Naruto saw Sasuke glare, but before anything else could happen, they all heard Kakashi say, that's enough. Sasuke got over here. Naruto just looked at Kakashi and then gave a small nod, then turned and started to walk again. Naruto just looked at Hinata with his hands in his pockets to see her smile, so he said hey. Naruto grabbed Hinata's hand and said so how are you? Naruto's smile got bigger hearing Hinata giggle, which also made him think her giggle it's cut. Naruto just kept smiling as he listened to Hinata talk. Hours later, Naruto sighed as he looked at the sun seeing it going behind a mountain when he heard okay, everyone stop, we are setting up camp. Naruto stopped his hand detaching from Hinata's and then put his fingers into a cross sign. After seeing two clones appear he handed one clone a scroll, then said looking at Hinata, give your bag to the other clone they'll set up our tents. Naruto saw Hinata nod and hand his bag to the other clone, so he smiled and then heard that's unfair. Naruto turned around at Kiba and said what, if you were able to create shadow clones you would do it. Naruto saw Kiba open his mouth to say something back, but Naruto didn't hear anything which made him smirk. Naruto was about to turn when he heard you can make more clones and have them set up our tents. Naruto just looked at Sakura with a smirk and then said now, why would I do that? I wouldn't have anything to watch. Naruto saw Sakura glare at him, which made him hold back a chuckle to then hear you two won't be watching anything. Go get firewood and no clones. Naruto looked at Kurenai and just nodded and then said okay. Naruto then turned around and walked off with Hinata going to get firewood. Later that night, Naruto was sitting in his tent with an ink bottle on the floor next to a square piece of wood. Naruto had his brush in hand looking at the wood seeing an empty tag with a seal sitting on it. Naruto just continued looking when he heard someone open his tent door, so he looked up to see Hinata looking in, so he smiled to hear food is done. Naruto nodded and said I'll be out there in a minute. Naruto then looked down to hear what are you working on? Naruto saw Hinata on her knees crawling into his tent leaving her sandals. Naruto just gave a smile and said nothing cool. Naruto saw Hinata just smiling and heard tell me. Naruto sighed then said there are seals that let me make berries out of chakra, but they are big and I have to make them from scrap, so I'm trying to make my own version. I found out blood can be used to make a seal, so if I can complete this seal all I gotta do is put enough blood on it, then push chakra into this paper seal. In theory the blood would go around the seal making a barrier seal, and instead of hours less than a minute. Naruto saw Hinata smile and sit looking at the seal, then heard I'll get you some food if you continue working. Naruto shook his head, set the brush down and said, I've been stuck on it for a good minute. I need a break. Naruto saw Hinata smile, then nod so he got onto his knees and crawled out with her. Couple days later, Naruto was walking along a path with Hinata next to him and everyone else in the back. Naruto just smiled, enjoying Hinata's presence when he heard hey, Naruto, isn't that blade heavy? Naruto turned around walking backwards and said yay, but I have a gravity seal on it. I can lift the blade and use it without the seal, but I'm better with the seal. Naruto saw Kiba nod, then heard how heavy is it? Naruto looked at Kiba with a smirk and heard about the weight of a feather. Naruto saw Kiba's eyes widened, then heard really. Naruto nodded and said Akamaru can lift this up with ease. Naruto saw Kiba just nod, then heard that's dangerous. Naruto nodded when he heard isn't a gravity seal a difficult seal to make. Naruto looked at Kurenai and shook his head and said, not making it's more of using. If I place it on you I can make you as light as a feather or as heavy as an elephant. Naruto saw Kurenai nod, then heard Kakashi say Naruto unless you became a decent seal user overnight someone taught you. Naruto shook his head and said no, I taught myself. I've been learning about seals since I was 10. Naruto saw Kakashi shocked and then heard, how come we didn't know? Naruto just gave a big smile and heard I wasn't trying to keep it a secret at first, it's just that I got told Fuinjutsu is stupid and cheating for a ninja, but Hinata set me straight. Naruto then turned back facing forward and just said I then decided to keep it a secret after I started training with the executioner blade. Naruto only walked in silence for a few seconds when he heard Naruto. Naruto looked to his right at Hinata and just gave a smile to hear I know my input might not be helpful, but I had an idea for your project. Naruto just smiled, but before he could speak he heard project. Naruto looked behind him at Sasuke, so he said waving him off none of your fucking business. Naruto then looked forward and said what is your idea? Naruto saw Hinata looking behind her nervously so he said don't worry, just don't give what I'm working on away. Naruto saw Hinata look at him and nod, then heard, you are trying to make a seal that makes another seal. Naruto nodded and then heard then what if you only made one seal? Naruto looked at Hinata in confusion, then heard say you just make part of the seal on the tag, then after the blood you activate the seal like normal, and it makes the whole seal. Naruto's eyes widened, then he smiled and said that's a great idea Hinata. Naruto then gave a smile to hear really? Naruto nodded then said in the middle of the seal is the main part where it tells my chakra to do with the outer part doing the work. If I can put the middle part on a tag the outer part might automatically form. Naruto just kept smiling as he continued thinking about Hinata's idea, his smile getting bigger. At night, Naruto sighed as he finished putting his sealing equipment in his storage scroll when he heard I thought you were going to continue. Naruto looked up and smiled at Hinata, then said I was but then decided not to. I just need a break, I've been thinking about this since you came up with the idea, and my brain just needs a break. Naruto saw Hinata nod, then he saw her set a bowl of food down which he didn't notice earlier, so he said thank you. Naruto then took the food and started eating when he saw Hinata sit down, so he said I don't mind your company, but I thought you would eat with Kiba and Shino. Naruto saw Hinata give a smile, then heard I told Kiba that you've helped me in some thinking that I'll show if I need to, but he keeps bugging me about it wanting to know. Naruto just chuckled to hear Naruto, I was wondering what type of ninja you want to be. Naruto looked at Hinata and just stared for about a minute, then said I don't know. Naruto saw Hinata nod, so he gave a smile and said, what type do you want to be? Naruto saw Hinata look up at herself, then heard A-Tracker and Medic Ninja. Naruto nodded and said cool. Naruto then took a couple of bits, and after swallowing again he said Hinata. Naruto looked up as did Hinata, and after a few seconds of silence said I realized we train and we are friends, but I don't know you. Naruto just saw Hinata nod, and after a few more seconds in silence he said can you tell me about yourself? Naruto saw Hinata's face get a tint of red, then heard her say quietly, what do you want to know? Naruto gave a small smile, then heard likes, dislikes, hobbies and goals. Naruto saw Hinata nod, then heard her say quietly well, my likes are the branch house of the Hyuga clan and my team. My dislikes Naruto interrupted Hinata by saying can you please speak a little louder? I didn't hear you. Naruto saw Hinata look up and nod, which made him think she hasn't acted like this in a minute. Naruto saw Hinata take a bite of her food, then heard like I said before my likes are the branch house of the Hyuga clan, my team and hanging out with you. My dislikes are people who judge others for just who they are, people who are mean to my friends and the birdcage seal. Naruto nodded and watched as Hinata took a couple of bites, then after a few seconds heard my hobbies are gardening, making medical ointment and cooking. My goal is to become a powerful clan head and get rid of the birdcage seal. Naruto just smiled and nodded then after asking about the birdcage seal, he told Hinata his likes, dislikes, hobbies and goal with them both finding that they like gardening, but Naruto grows food, while Hinata does medical flowers. Naruto also promised Hinata when he became Hokage, he would help get rid of the birdcage seal. Next day, Naruto was walking along a path with everyone behind him including Hinata. Naruto was just thinking when he heard Naruto. Naruto looked behind him at Kurenai to hear what is with the scroll. Naruto just chuckled as he stopped walking, and after everyone else walking next to him he started walking, then said looking at Kurenai, it has many seals that mainly have modifier seals. Naruto saw Kurenai confused so he said modifier seals are a special type of seal that are added to other seals, and some can be used just by itself for example, a blood lock seal, and it can go on anything or a storage seal. The seal makes a storage scroll not usable unless I use my blood to unlock it or any blood that is in the seal. Naruto saw Kurenai nod, so he said back to my scroll, I also have a few storage scrolls with other scrolls, one being a seal-breaking seal, and the rest just other seals that seal thinks are power away. Naruto saw Kurenai nod so he nodded himself, then he looked forward. Naruto and everyone only walked for a few minutes when he saw something in a tree. Naruto looked at the three then around him noticing 4 people following them. After a few seconds of looking around Naruto thought they are just bandits or they were once a Genin. Naruto reached into his kunai pouch, grabbing 2 kunai with explosive tags. Naruto continued looking around when he saw the 4 bandits going ahead of them, then jumping in front of the path. Naruto stopped with the rest to see one bandit walk up pointing his sword and heard, give us the executioner blade and we won't hurt you. Naruto saw Sasuke walk up and then heard, you think you can hurt us? I'm an Uchiha, you should just run. Naruto just sighed letting go of one of the 2 kunai, then quickly threw it, after adding lighting chakra. Naruto saw a blur of blue when a kunai hit the ground, so he activated the explosive tag. Naruto saw it explode launching the 4 bandits. Naruto just signed to hear what the hell. Naruto looked at Sakura, then heard Sasuke had it handled. Naruto just shook his head and said Sasuke was taunting and underestimating the enemy. What you didn't notice is that one of them had a decent sword stance, so they were at least trained at once by a samurai. Naruto then walked up seeing one of the bandits get up and as he walked he pulled out a sealing tag. Naruto placed the tag on the forehead of the first bandit and then did some hand signs. Naruto saw the tag glow, then the seal expanded covering the whole body of the first bandit. After doing it to the other 3 bandits he went through the pockets of the bandits. Naruto turned and walked back to everyone with some kunai and explosive tags in hand. Naruto looked up and said I found these on one. They were at least genin or trained to use them. Naruto put the stuff in his pouch to hear what is that seal. Naruto turned around and said that will keep them knocked out until I'm out of distance from the seal. After that they'll burn and the bandits will wake up. Naruto saw Kurenai and Kakashi nod, then heard Kakashi say good job. Naruto just nodded when he heard I had that fucking handled. Naruto looked at Sasuke then said with a sigh, you underestimate the enemy. You could have died and I don't feel like dealing with Sakura and everyone back in the village, saying it's my fault as I didn't jump in your way to protect you. Naruto then walked over to Hinata and just gave a small smile, then they all left. 1 day later, Naruto was walking along a path with Kakashi ahead of him and everyone else behind him. They're just hours outside their destination and as they walked Naruto heard Naruto. Naruto looked behind him at Kiba so he stopped walking and after seeing everyone behind him catch up, he continued to walk to here, how skilled are you in seals? Naruto shrugged and said truly I don't know as there is no ranking for it. Naruto saw Kiba nod so he said I can say that I can make seals that Jiraiya the Sannin took years for him. Naruto then looked forward when he heard doesn't matter, I could still kick your ass. Naruto looked at Sasuke and just shrugged and said I don't care. Naruto saw Sasuke glare, then heard it doesn't matter I could still kick your ass. Naruto just shrugged and just looked forward and started walking in silence. Naruto only got a few minutes of silence when he heard Naruto. Naruto looked behind himself at Shino to hear yesterday during the attack you threw kunai that moved fast with a blue blur. Logically you're more powerful than you were back at the academy, but what was it? Naruto shrugged and said lightning chakra. Naruto saw Shino raise an eyebrow, but heard Sasuke say, what elements does someone like you have? Naruto just smirked and said I have wind and lightning. Naruto looked forward to seeing Kakashi look behind him and then heard seriously. Naruto nodded to hear mine is lightning. Naruto nodded to hear do you know what each element represents? Naruto nodded, but before he could speak he heard Sasuke say they don't represent shit. Naruto sighed then said each element represents one each. Fire is attacking, earth is defense, wind is piercing, lightning is speed, and water is healing. Naruto saw Kakashi nod and then heard yep. Naruto just nodded to hear Hinata say my affinity is water. Naruto smiled and nodded, then looked at Kurenai seeing her look at Kurenai, then heard that's nice to know. I was planning on teaching once we got back. Naruto just smiled when he heard how do we see our affinities. Naruto smirked as he pulled out his storage scroll and said going to one knee. Naruto unsealed the stacks of chakra papers that Hiruzen gave him. Naruto rolled up his scroll and caught up with everyone and said holding out the papers these. Naruto saw Kiba walk up so he said take one and put chakra into it. If it splits in half cleanly it's wind, if it burns it's fire, if it turns to dust it's earth, if it gets wet it's water, and if it wrinkles up it's lightning. Naruto saw Kiba nod, then take one, so he handed one out to everyone else beside the Jonin senseis, him and Hinata. Naruto then watched, surprised by what he found. After a couple of minutes when everyone was done he looked forward and thought Shino and Sakura are earth which is surprising for Sakura as she's a hothead. Kiba is fire which isn't a surprise as a lot of Konoha ninja have that affinity, but the most surprising is Sasuke his affinity is lightning. Naruto was smirking as he continued to think when he heard what the hell are you thinking Dumbus. Naruto looked at Sasuke with a sigh, then said, just shocked by your affinity, most Uchihas have a fire affinity. Naruto saw Sasuke smirking and then heard, well then Kakashi-sensei could teach me lightning jutsu. Naruto didn't respond when he heard Naruto, what jutsu do you know? Naruto looked at Kakashi, seeing him reading his small orange book, so he said, not a lot due to my chakra capacity, I need a lot of control, but what I know is wind style great breakthrough, earth style mud wall, lightning style beast tracking, and that's it. Naruto saw Kakashi nod, still looking forward to hearing the executioner sword is made from a metal that uses your enemy's blood and chakra to heal, but it also makes it conduct chakra easily. If you can surround the sword and your elemental affinities you control will be great. Naruto nodded with a smile, then said thanks for that Kakashi-sensei. Naruto then walked over to Hinata, seeing her uncomfortable. After getting next to her he whispered, hey, you good? Naruto saw Hinata look up and nod, but he knew it was a lie, so he whispered sorry for taking the spotlight. Naruto saw Hinata look at him about to speak, but he smiled, and after a few seconds he saw Hinata just give a smile which made his smile bigger. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video guys, let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video, bye bye.